More news at the top of the hour. I'm Dave Michaels. CNN Newsroom is next.
We want no sympathy. Stern resolve from U.S. leaders about to engage in tough trade negotiations with Japan.
Selling products that don't pollute. Green marketing provides a fresh new challenge for advertisers.
The sudden death of a superpower. We examine how the mighty Soviet Union collapsed in a dizzying chain of events.
A showdown summit in Japan as the world's two richest nations try to even out their trade differences.
And right now, those differences are huge, large enough to bring U.S. President Bush and American business leaders to Japan. After a formal greeting in the old Japanese capital of Kyoto, it was time to get down to business, literally.
The business of reducing Japan's $41 billion trade surplus with the U.S. That means that last year, Japan sold $41 billion more in exports to the U.S. than the U.S. sold in exports to Japan. The difference in car sales accounted for 3/4 of that surplus.
Japan's Prime Minister Kiichi Miyazawa is trying to even things out. Miyazawa is pleading with Japanese industry to make the largest trade concessions possible to the U.S.
So far, those pleas are working. Major Japanese automakers will open their dealerships in Japan to American cars and will set sales targets for U.S.-made cars. Japan will also buy more U.S.-made auto parts.
But President Bush and his delegation say that's not good enough. They want Japan to go beyond those gestures and make major changes in its trade policies. CNN's Charles Bierbauer has our top story.
Kemari is an ancient ritualized sport once played by the Japanese imperial family. Global sportsman George Bush could not resist jumping into a new game with both feet and a soccer-style header, which does not fit the rules. There's the metaphor for Bush's problem in Japan, where the rules for the trading game are what bedevil the U.S. On this trip through Asia and the Pacific, Bush is calling for a level playing field that would give U.S. goods the same access to markets that foreign traders have in the U.S.
We need more Americans who can speak Japanese and who understand the workings of the Japanese marketplace.
That marketplace has been hard for Americans, from agribusiness to the auto business, to penetrate. Prime Minister Miyazawa is prepared to make sure Bush does not go home empty-handed.
I'm well aware of the economic difficulties that President Bush faces, and I would like to extend to him every support I can, consistent with the principles of free market and free trade.
Not all Japanese share that feeling, and the reluctance goes beyond the leftist fringe that needs little prompting to shout its Yankee go-home message. In fact, American businessmen traveling with the president suggest that they do not need piecemeal gestures so much as Japan's system needs wholesale revision. You can't usually get a president to open a Toys R Us store, but you can if you're trying to persuade Japanese consumers to open their purses for more than a security check.
We have much to learn from the 3-year battle that Toys R Us waged to pry open the $6 billion Japanese toy market.
Bridging the cultural gap and the trade deficit remains a problem. In Japan's ancient capital, Kyoto, the waters were troubled by nothing more than the koi, as Bush spent the day touring with friend and former Prime Minister Toshiki Kaifu. But Imperial Japan was a closed society, and modern Japan has only selectively opened to the rest of the world. Charles Bierbauer, CNN, Osaka, Japan.
marketing. It refers to the selling of products supposedly kind to the earth. But there are complaints that the only green some advertisers are seeing is the cash they can make with environmental claims. CNN's Don Knapp has our business desk report from San Francisco.
Manufacturers are trying to cash in on consumers' concern for the environment.
If you walk into the supermarket today, you're deluged with stuff that is earth-friendly, environment-friendly, ozone-friendly, degradable, biodegradable, photodegradable, recycled. And people recognize there's a huge amount of hype.
Tampons that are kind to the earth.
More women trust their bodies to biodegradable Tampax tampons.
Gasoline that doesn't pollute as much.
Emission control gasolines, the pure and simple solution from Arco.
And I only throw away this.
Less packaging for fabric softener. In San Francisco, Advertising Age magazine put together this conference on so-called green marketing strategies. But, as has been noted before, it isn't easy being green.
One of the first things that we tell people at Ogilvy and Mather in Houston is that they need to be very cautious about how they approach this market. There's a tremendous backfire potential.
Ad man Bob Rehack says many see environmental advertising as a cover-up by the people who created the problems in the first place.
As you know from consumer surveys, consumer interest in environmentally sound products is growing. Marketers have been responding, of course, but not always in an entirely truthful manner.
The Federal Trade Commission is investigating a number of products to see if they really do degrade, recycle, and are otherwise earth-friendly. And it's not clear how much consumers are willing to pay for earth-friendly products. 48% of those responding to a Roper survey conducted for Citizens for the Environment said environmental considerations are more important than the economy. But 38% said they would not pay more to get environmentally superior products.
That's the problem. At what point do you reach a price point that a consumer says he can't afford to care about the environment? No one knows what that price point is.
Advertising Age's Dennis Chase says many manufacturers are only paying lip service to environmental concerns. But he says even lip service is an important first step toward producing truly environmentally compatible products. Don Knapp, CNN, San Francisco.
The world is reaching out to help 11 newborn nations, and republics of the former Soviet Union can use it. Food, clothing, and medicine are scarce and come at sky-high prices there. Washington is calling an international aid conference to coordinate worldwide humanitarian efforts. It's scheduled for the end of this month. The participants, as many as 60 nations and global groups, and United Nations Security Council members may hold a post-Soviet summit before the end of this month. One aim, to consider the problems and goals of the new Commonwealth. Russian President Boris Yeltsin would have a chance to speak. Yeltsin represents the new Commonwealth to the Security Council. He has what was the Soviet Union's old seat. It's another symbol of the USSR's sudden collapse. As part of this week's special series, Soviet Disunion, CNN's Catherine Steele looks back on the Soviet Union's dying days.
The Soviet Union, 6 months ago, the biggest country in the world, more than double the size of the United States. 6 months ago, a mighty superpower with enough nuclear weapons to blow human life off the planet. Mikhail Gorbachev, 6 months ago, president of a vast nation, leader of 15 republics, summit statesman who spoke on behalf of nearly 300 million people as he made deals with the U.S. aimed at ending the global arms race. Just 6 months ago, but no longer, because at age 74, the Soviet Union is dead. And at age 60, Mikhail Gorbachev is unemployed. When he came to power in 1985, Gorbachev set out to reform communism in the Soviet Union, not to kill it or the country. Still, the USSR showed symptoms of fatal illness in 1990. By that year's end, all 15 Soviet republics had declared some form of independence. Gorbachev kept pleading with the Soviet people to stay together as a nation. He wanted republic leaders to sign his new Union treaty.
Gorbachev said it would keep Soviet power centered in Moscow, yet allow the republics greater freedom. The idea was put to a nationwide vote, and it won approval. Months later, in August, the Soviet leader was vacationing on the Black Sea, just a day away from the treaty signing ceremony, when coup plotters tried to overthrow it. Though Gorbachev survived, he never again had the chance to get the treaty signed. Finally, in September 1991, the USSR began breaking apart. Moscow let go of the 3 Baltic republics after more than half a century. The death blow came quietly, without troops, tanks, or crowds in the street. Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus said they'd formed a partnership of newborn nations, a commonwealth. Gorbachev warned of war and catastrophe for all mankind, but his words were lost on the winds of change. December 21st, 11 Republic leaders met and pledged membership in the new Commonwealth. Only the Republic of Georgia held back. So what had been one giant nation became 11 smaller countries, Russia still the biggest by far. Christmas 1991, Gorbachev says goodbye.
I hereby discontinue my activities.
And he signs over control of almost 30,000 nuclear weapons to the Russian president. Then the red Soviet flag is lowered for the last time. A country dies, an era ends, and the coming new year brings with it a new world. Catherine Steele, CNN, reporting.
It almost seemed like the first Christmas ever in Russia yesterday. In the Orthodox faith, Russia's predominant religion, Christmas is on January 7th. But when Russia was under the Soviet communist system, practicing religion was almost completely forbidden. Now, economic times are tough for Russians and getting worse. But this year, there's been an outpouring of religious celebration. Many Russians are turning to the Orthodox faith to get them through these harsh economic times. For a group of Russian orphans, this year's holiday season was the stuff of dreams. 34 orphans were brought to the U.S. for the holidays by self-made millionaire Tom Vu. Vu is a Vietnamese refugee who's living the American dream himself and wanted to share it. He brought the youngsters to his home in Orlando, Florida, put on a carnival for them, and took them to the Kennedy Space Center, Disney World, SeaWorld, and Universal Studios. The orphans have since returned to Russia. But during their visit, they and Mr. Vu sent messages of peace and good cheer.
I want to wish health, security, and friendship between our countries.
Be kind and friendly, because friendship is a very important thing in the world.
Everyone just pull our heart out and give, and don't worry about what other criticism you will receive. Then the world will be a better place.
Couldn't say it better myself.
That's right, simple enough, right? Well, tomorrow we're going to do a profile of Russian President Boris Yeltsin, the man who is leading the former Soviet Union into the indefinite future.
That's right.
That's it for today. I'm Brian Todd.
And I'm Cassandra Henderson. We'll see you tomorrow.
CNN Newsroom is part of Cable in the Classroom, a service of the cable television industry and your local cable company.
piano albums have sold in the millions. TV and recording star Floyd Kramer. Now, Heartland Music presents Floyd Kramer in an all-new collection of his most beautiful recordings ever. Floyd has a special piano style that makes every song so warm and relaxing. You'll get two beautiful albums. Easy favorites to today's most beautiful songs. You'll love these all-new recordings. But this special Floyd Kramer collection is not in stores. Please order now.
Order, call toll-free 1-800-257-1257 to save all COD charges and pay only $12.98 for records or cassettes or $16.98 for CD plus $3 shipping. Use your credit card or send check or money order to Floyd Kramer, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, save COD charges by sending check or money order or use your credit card.
This is CNN.
Good morning. CNN Overnight continues. I'm Dave Michaels in Atlanta. U.S. officials say the U.S. and Japan agree to take steps to stimulate worldwide economic growth. The announcement followed a meeting between President Bush and Prime Minister Kiichi Miyazawa in Tokyo Tuesday. Details of their agreement were not released. However, a senior administration official says the two created a positive atmosphere for making progress with regard to trade disputes. In South Africa, a radical anti-apartheid group is claiming responsibility for the overnight explosion at an equipment company used by singer Paul Simon. An anonymous caller said the blast was to emphasize that Simon's upcoming tour must be stopped. Stage crews in Johannesburg have been preparing for Simon's Saturday performance, the first in South Africa since the cultural boycott was lifted. Simon says the show will go on. I'm Dave Michaels in Atlanta. CNN Overnight continues now with Larry King Live.
Welcome to Larry King Live. Tonight, sophistication or sleaze? Men's clubs with nude entertainment move out of the red light district and into the mainstream. Is America ready? Plus, the government is missing some of what these astronauts brought back. There's moon dust in private hands, and it's for sale. Now, here's Larry King.
Good evening from Washington. Another edition of Larry King Live. Program reminder, tomorrow night, former President Richard Nixon is the guest for the full hour. On Thursday night, Academy Award-winning actor Kevin Kline. Would you seal a business deal with a topless dancer on your cocktail table? A British entrepreneur thinks so. If you're a man of style and taste, or even a woman, he has launched a new New York nightclub with what he calls respectable, upscale nude entertainment. Others might call it 42nd Street. It's twice the price. But Peter Stringfellow says that since Paris has the Folie Bergère, New York ought to have this, right down to the undressed lady you can plant on your table for an additional professional artistic fee. That's what they call it. Joining us here in Washington, Peter Stringfellow, who opened Stringfellows Presents Pure Platinum in Manhattan last month. Also joining us, the conservative activist Bill Donahue, who often speaks out frequently on issues of family and morality. What's the idea, Peter, behind this?
Just entertainment, just show business, just
this
another
is a nightclub
step.
with nude people.
No, semi-nude. Now, there are clubs like this around America, but this is the new thing, and it's semi-nude.
Now, what's new about nude people in nightclubs. That's not new.
Absolutely nothing.
And
Except that what we're doing, we bring it
over?
into the mainstream.
Meaning?
Meaning that normally it's been a little bit, let's keep it quiet, and if we're going to go to one of these places, don't tell too many people, you know?
The X-rated district.
A little bit like that. I mean, there are some good ones in Florida that the Floridians are quite happy to go to, and the New Yorkers, snowbirds, when they go down there, go straight for the pure platinums and Fort Lauderdale.
Kind of place is what kind of place? It's a bar?
Okay, no, it's, to give you the description, it's like a disco without a dance floor, with a stage. It's like a Parisian fashion show, where the girls come on with all the clothes, and in a Parisian fashion show, like a New York one, they go back, but this time they take the clothes off. But they keep the bottoms on, you know. It's not totally nude, you know.
And this still doesn't sound new.
No, it's still
except it's in nicer districts and it's higher class.
Yeah, what we're doing here is giving the, say, the male and the girl who likes to go along with the husband and the boyfriend, the opportunity to go in and feel good and not feel, say, sleazy, you know. You're going, this is a beautiful environment,
and what about,
you feel good about it.
What about on your individual table? What's that all about?
Oh, I think that's great fun, that.
How does that work?
Well, the lady comes off the stage and says, would you like a close-up private dance? And you say yes, and with that, she'll dance on your stage, which is your table, and she'll dance for you.
Who's the clientele?
Well, me for a start. People that look very much like Bill and yourself. I mean, there's no particular formula. It's lots of males and lady executives who have got male clients on their hands, you know, from other countries. Where did he take these 6 guys? If they're in New York, they can't take them to the trendy nightclub because they're not going to get in. Also, they're going to sit at the bar just looking at the girls thinking, hey, you know, can I buy you a drink? Answer usually is no. So now they can come to Stringfellow's Pure Platinum and be entertained by girls who immediately treat them as if they're Robert Redford. And it's beautiful.
Evening only?
Evening only, yes. From 4 o'clock and after work environment as well.
Till how late?
4 o'clock would it be New York.
Till 4 in the morning?
Yeah, 5 o'clock in Miami.
Atlanta has it for lunch, right?
So I hear.
Is this sweeping? Are you going to open other places?
I'm happy with New York at the moment. But I mean, hey, I'm not king of the semi-nudes of America. There are lots of these guys who've been in this business a long time. And it is a new phenomena. An old new phenomenon.
An old new phenomenon, because this was around. What's the gripe, Bill?
Well, it's exactly what he said. He wants to try to legitimize a fundamentally illegitimate enterprise. The concern that I have, Larry, here, I mean, this is basically recycled kind of sexual trash that does belong on the margins of the culture and not in the mainstream of the culture. You know, the question I have really goes more to the American people as opposed to him. The question I have is, we are in a state of a kind of a cultural schizophrenia in this country. On the one hand, we have constant workshops about sexual harassment in the workplace. You can't go on to a college or university in this country without having some kind of workshop about date rape. Everyone bemoans and deplores sexual abuse. We have 1 out of every 4 Americans has some form of herpes. AIDS is a major threat in the nation's cities, as everyone knows. 10 to 15,000 heterosexuals are getting AIDS every year. And on the other hand, besides all this, and divorce and adultery and illegitimacy, we have, on the other hand, a society which seems to say, with regard to sex, let's glorify it, let's celebrate it. So if you look at movies, or if you look at art, or if you look at music, or radio, or television, or the theater, there's the celebration of sexuality. And it seems to me we ought to wake up at one point and say, what is the relationship between the celebration of sexual recklessness, which is precisely what this man is all about, that's what you're engaged in, the sexual recklessness, and the social consequences that he's supporting. Now,
and your answer is to what? Ban it?
No, I think that the people in New York and the communities around the country have to either use zoning laws or to find out if, in fact, if it's illegal. I'm not certain. I'm not certain you would pass the LAPS test, the literary, artistic, political, or scientific.
You've been rambling on for a long time. What you mean is you just don't like sex, right?
No, I do enjoy sex.
You've just said how can you get AIDS by looking at it?
Well, let me explain.
How can you get herpes by looking at it?
Well, let me explain something.
How can you spoil the morality of people by watching? No, you can't say all the things you said.
Let him answer.
That was too abusive.
No. Let me explain to you the relationship.
Cool down.
Let me explain the relationship between
I know my relationship.
between your sleaze joint and the problems that I'm talking about.
That's wrong.
No, I won't take it back, sir.
Well, it's not. You've never been there, right?
I
don't like sex. You've never been there.
Sir, I don't have to go to a pig pen to know that it stinks.
Oh boy, where'd you get this fella from?
No, let me tell you something. You can take a pig out of the sty, but you can't take a sty out of the pig.
I'm sorry for you. You must have a terrible life, fella.
The relationship here is this, Larry. We have over 1 million. We have over 1 million couples in this country who were divorced last year. We have a major problem. We have a major problem with herpes and with AIDS. Now, The entire purpose of your establishment, sir, is to create sexual arousal. Sexual arousal is an incomplete experience. It has to be culminated. It has to be finished in some place. And so, you're from Britain. I thought you'd have more manners than just to shut up while I'm speaking.
I'm to interrupt you because you're getting
one at a time, guys. Obviously,
because you're losing.
You look, I'm not losing. I mean, you've got America watching this. They must be going, wow, where is this guy coming from?
What boat did you get off?
Have you got any children?
It's precisely because I have children that I am concerned, sir. Let me ask you a question. Is hedonism good for culture?
Is what?
Is hedonism good for culture? Should we have more of it or less of it?
I only drink vodka.
Oh, you see, I didn't think you would know the answer.
Let me get a break and come back.
I didn't think you would.
With Peter Stringfellow and Bill Donahue. I'm new at this, but I think they disagree on this topic. We'll be back after these words.
You, my friend, can use some fun. Big fun. Las Vegas, Atlantic City, cruise ships. But you got to take this along, the Players Club card. It's going to save you a lot of money. 25 to 50% off fabulous resort hotels, 25% off meals and drinks, up to 50% off shows and entertainment. Come on. Call Players Club for much more information free. You're too smart to pay full price.
New members get 2 free nights in Las Vegas or Atlantic City when the club books their flights. Call toll-free now.
Which news network do you watch? CNN offers a comprehensive look at the news with special investigative series, live reports and interviews, and great programs like Larry King Live, Moneyline, and Crossfire. And CNN Headline News takes you around the world in 30 minutes with a continuously updated look at the day's top stories. CNN and CNN Headline News. Whether you watch one or the other or both, we're glad you're watching. And if you aren't, maybe it's time you should.
Our guests are Peter Stringfellow, the owner of Stringfellows Presents Pure Platinum, New York's first European-style men's club. The membership is $1,000 a year. This is a membership club, and there are 50 girls on multiple stages. And the entertainment is called Sensually Erotic. The rule is, though, no touching. And Bill Donahue, the family issues activist, conservative scholar associated with the Heritage Foundation, who disagrees with this concept. As a concept, he wouldn't ban it. He would just zone it into what?
Well, I'd like to stigmatize people like him and his customers and make them feel embarrassed if they're capable of being embarrassed in the first place, which I'm not exactly certain.
Now, semi-nudity, though, is found in great museums.
Well, of course.
If I went into the Metropolitan and got turned on, would that be, we'd take the painting down?
No, you'd be rather bizarre. But the fact of the matter is that you have pictures...
bizarre to go to a museum?
No, to be turned on by pictures like that. You have pictures of nude children, for that matter, medical textbooks. Nobody has any objection to that unless you're something of a super purist. What we're concerned about is basically the promotion of sexual recklessness. At least that's what I am concerned about. As I say, we have a society...
As you make sex by this kind of place a loose sort of fabric, easy...
Well, what you do is you lower the restraints. I mean, what is it? Look, the sexual appetite is normal in people, and it has to be ventilated one way or another.
Right.
The entire purpose of having the institution of marriage, Larry, is to channel the sexual drive in a way which is constructive, so that the byproduct of a sexual union between a man and woman, namely children, live in some stable environment.
That's
we don't want to just abandon it altogether.
It's not a constitutional thing. Adults can do what they want in America. You don't have to be married.
No society in all of history, not one single society, has simply allowed it up to the individual to pick and choose whatever moral code he wants and dispense with that which he doesn't want. Every society is based on a moral consensus, on some recognition that there are shared norms and values. Now, all I'm suggesting is this. If you throw the libido to the wind, if you say, let's just express the libido and just go for it, you are going to wind up with the consequences of where in the world do we get these things such as herpes and AIDS and the kind of infidelity that comes as a result of sexual arousal in this guy's sleaze trap.
Peter, your response.
Okay, listen, this is the kind of guy that frightens me. What's wrong with the...
Well, you asked me what
about the beach? No, think, what's wrong with the beach in Europe where you can go on any beach and see topless women? Do you hate that? Do you find that salacious?
No.
Do you find it that we're all going to start raping each other?
No.
Don't you go to the beaches? Are you happy? Or do you go back to the Victorian when they used to put on the piano legs, they used to put covers over them so that we wouldn't get too excited? Well, you would get excited, wouldn't you? You'd look at the piano leg and go, hey, moral society, man. No, one of my kids is going to play piano.
Yeah.
Can I make a point, Larry, because he's talking awful lot. Nightclubs I've been in from 30 years, all right? I have a beautiful nightclub in Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive, which is not nude or even semi-nude. Restaurant, disco, classic, Bill. You may not like it because it's full of beautiful LA girls who aren't taking the clothes off. They're going for the night out, and the guys see them, and they chat, brings his beautiful wife, his girlfriend. But business has always been sexual. It's always been sexual. I mean, you know, and he's the kind of guy that calls them cattle markets. You know, the same one we would call a dorm. Oh, here we go. You see it? The cattle markets.
Exactly.
Okay, meat markets.
Well, then,
I'm pleased that you've said that because that puts you in the picture. Now, I don't look upon these places as cattle markets, and I love beautiful ladies. I like women.
Let me just ask you one question.
I'd rather look at them than look at lots of things.
Wonderful. I'm glad you'd rather look at them as opposed to nude babies or something of that nature. That makes you a wonderful person.
Hey, perversion, steady. This is your point, not mine. Oh, is this naughty?
Let me ask you a question. I got one question for you, Peter. Is adultery wrong?
Well, unfortunately, I've done it in the past.
You might as well get off this show. You just lost this argument, pal. You can't even say...
Me and the rest, I'm divorced twice, for goodness sake.
Well, you operate a sleaze joint. You've been divorced. You can't say hedonism is wrong. You can't say the divorce is wrong.
Hey, I've been to museums with Larry and seen the Grecian gods and everything.
Exactly? What kind of moral code would you like to impose on the society?
Not yours, is it? I wouldn't impose one on your society.
This is America.
Is this guy... Are you American?
Would you... How about...
People got on boats a few hundred years ago to get
miniskirts.
I love it. I love it.
You like miniskirts?
I love it. What I am concerned... Look at it this way, Larry.
Is that sexually attractive?
There's a difference between that which is sexually enticing and lust and the kind of filthy kind of activity which induces in men opportunities to take advantage of their libido and manifest it in ways in which they go out to prostitutes. I mean, after all, the whole purpose, wait a minute, the whole purpose of having these establishments, as I say, is sexual arousal. What is the culmination of it? What are they going to do with their sexual arousal? What are they going to do with it? Go fishing?
Well, you're obviously speaking to yourself, Bill. You've got a problem with it, right?
No, I think
you've got a problem.
It is
got a problem.
One at a time. What is the purpose of this?
I have no problem.
Does the majority have a purpose?
Of course you do.
Is it a libido turn-on?
Can I use the word? Excuse me, don't get too excited, man. It's social intercourse. It's where people come together. Why do they go to restaurants?
Just like the
stay at home and have their food at home. They said they come to the
restaurant. Let's get some calls. Atlanta, Georgia, with Bill Donahue and Peter Stringfellow. Hello.
Yes, I'm calling from Atlanta, and I disagree with this guy in the red, and I agree totally with Bill.
What's the question?
Because right now, I'm wondering how this guy can promote this type of thing in our society when right now I am going through a possible divorce with my husband who is having an affair. He goes to adult entertainment clubs, and he does these types of things. He's brought home herpes, he's brought home chlamydia, and...
Right now, are you saying if there weren't the club, you'd have a happy marriage?
No, I'm not really saying that, but I'm saying that as long as we keep promoting something like this, that we're going to continue to have these problems.
Do they come on with the girls there, and do the girls date them? In fact, does it lead to things beyond just watching
the golden rule. First of all, I'm very sorry for the lady, of course. I'm also, I don't know anything about Atlanta, and I don't know anything about their clubs down there, but they have a reputation being pretty good kind of clubs. However, no, the golden rule is you can look but no touch. There's no touching, it's sex with a smile. I'm sorry for her, but the majority of divorces have nothing to do with semi-nude clubs or girls in clubs.
No, if it has to do with infidelity. Look, it's not just his establishment. I mean, we live in a culture where we celebrate the likes of Guns N' Roses and Two Live Crew and Madonna.
I don't like Two Live Crew. And Rambo.
No, exactly, yeah. But Larry, my point is this. You know, every time something like this happens, NEA funding of pornography, people say, does that cause this problem?
Where's pornography? Where's pornography?
Wait a minute.
There's no pornography.
Standing by itself, each and every one of them do not create this problem. My argument is this, that cumulatively, you cannot say that the popular culture which celebrates this kind of recklessness doesn't have an effect. As I said, everyone has this frightening fear of their kids winding up with these problems, and we have all these workshops and symposia and colloquia, and we don't quite figure out the relationship. We have a society which says that as far as smokers are concerned, we ought to segregate them, we ought to make it illegal in many areas. For drinkers, we ought to tax them more and everything else. What do we do with
Coming
that
to these
stuff?
clubs, you're not dragged into the clubs. You pay an admission, nobody's dragging you in.
Oh, here we go again. The libertarian,
you don't like it.
The libertarian argument.
Have you ever been in one?
Let me tell you something. I've got to live with the social consequences, with the moral debris that people like you promote. So don't tell me, if you set up shop in some South Pacific island someplace,
I expect him to read a cue card here. You know, wait
let me get a break. We'll be back with Bill Donahue and Peter Stringfellow. Peter's club is Stringfellows Presents Pure Platinum. Bill Donahue, frequently associated with the Heritage Foundation. More calls after this.
I don't know exactly how to, you know, words, what I want to know, what's the word, you know, it's not coming out right.
It's easier done than said. Call 1-800-Flowers. Our name is our number. Even if you can't find the right words, we'll help you find the right flowers. And we'll deliver them anywhere to anyone in a matter of hours, guaranteed. So pick up the phone and dial.
1-800-Flowers. Carol Lee speaking.
Yeah, you would...
Call 1-800-Flowers, the world's neighborhood florist.
With the termination of an oppressive government comes the opportunity for the voicing of lifestyles long underground. We'll talk about homosexuality in Russia today on Sonia Live, 1 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
Our guests are Peter Stringfellow and Bill Donahue, and the caller is from San Antonio, Texas. Hello.
Yeah, my question's for Peter. He says that these clubs are, you know, strictly hands-off, but I've been to a couple of these clubs where, you know, the dancers come up to me and say, let's go into the back for a champagne party or something like that. Now, are these clubs actually fronts for prostitution, or do they just, like, come on to you so that you'll waste all this money and you get nothing in return for it?
Listen, my friend, I can only speak for my club. I have discotheques all around the world, London, Beverly Hills, Miami. I have one semi-nude club that I brought out of the shadows of what you're all talking about into center stage, high-profile show business, New York. Where you've been, I can't answer for. My club, no touch.
Arlington, Virginia. Hello.
Yes, I wanted to say that I'm a former dancer in the Washington area, and that I support Peter's club 100%. I think the gentleman in the next to him has a lot of his issues confused, moral issues. Prostitution does not come from these clubs. It comes from the men who seek that. The morals that come along with the clubs, they just don't exist. The clubs are a very good outlet for men who are businessmen, for travelers, for single men who don't know where to go, what to do. They're looking for some action, for some entertainment. And believe me, I've never had a problem working in the club, and I would probably still be there today, except that I finally graduated from college and I have a real job.
By the way, non-members can come, right, as I understand it?
Oh, yes, of course. You just pay an admission to the door.
Just comment on that. Her experience is not all that common. A few months ago, I was on the Donahue show talking about that kitty cat club, which didn't succeed.
This has got nothing to do with the kitty cat club.
Please, just time out, pal. The fact of the matter is that during the break, this is one of the strippers was on the show and whatnot. During the break, she turned to one of the strippers.
Dancers.
Strippers, pal. I won't legitimize your filthy business. And she turned to me and she said to me, you know, I agree with you on everything. And I said, you do? I said, well, why? Why don't you tell the American people this? She says, I've been beaten, I've been gang raped, I have been savaged by men you cannot believe. And this is common in this business that this guy supposedly runs. And I said, why don't you tell this to the American people then when they come back from the break? And you know what she said? She said, what are you, crazy? She said, the money I'm making, I wouldn't give it up for anything. So don't tell me that there aren't ancillary effects about... Well,
I mean, that lady, I don't believe you.
You don't even
believe anything you say.
You don't even believe that hedonism is wrong.
I don't even know what you told me. I think you've got
Amsterdam,
at home, man.
Amsterdam, Holland, with Peter Stringfellow and Bill Donahue. Hello.
Good evening. This is Mr. Ed calling from Amsterdam.
Wow.
Hello. I have a question for the colorless guy. I mean, for the guy in the colorless suit. I'm sorry. Sir, why do you want to step in the place of God and say, tell me or tell the world what's right or wrong? I think God gave everybody the power to make a judgment on what's right or wrong. And I think if somebody wants to enjoy women in this kind of suits, whether they're naked or not naked or half naked, I think it's up to them. The only concern for you or for anybody else could be whether there is any harassment with the ladies.
No, I'm concerned about the social consequences of sexual promiscuity.
You don't want it as a law.
That is my concern.
You wouldn't ban it.
No, I'd rather see this guy run out of town through social stigma and ostracism, if it's possible, as opposed to using the weapon of the law.
What's going to happen to you?
The fact of the matter is that, you know, this gentleman calls in and he says, you know, let the person decide. We don't let people decide anymore about smoking and drinking in many respects. Now, all I'm saying is this.
Do you favor those laws?
Yes, I do. But I'll tell you this, Larry. Smoking and drinking are nothing on a scale of 1 to 10 compared to what sexual recklessness does to the social and physical health of people.
Let's take the ultimate destruction.
Yeah.
It's maybe off the topic,
family.
but it's a fair question. Would you ban guns?
No, I would not ban guns. But I would have gun regulation.
Nude woman ban, guns, okay.
I didn't say anything about banning it. I'm saying about zoning it and creating enough social pressure so that people like him would go back into the hole from which he grew out of. That's all. I mean, why would we want it?
The ultimate immorality.
No, I'll tell you what kills people is the feminization of poverty. Illegitimacy is the proximate cause of poverty in this country. We have teenagers having sex and having children. Why do they have this situation today in the 1990s when we didn't have it in the 1950s? Because we've created a social climate of sexual recklessness, of go for it. What feeds into it? Many things. He makes one small contribution to it. He's not the entire aspect of it. But when you say, when you take the lid off the libido and you wind up with these kinds of problems, don't tell me there's no relationship between the two. He doesn't want to hear it because he doesn't even think adultery is wrong. He's gone down the road with everything.
Okay, response to that is this. He's not talking about America. He's talking about some country he wants to create. He's going to sit in the middle of it and rule the whole place, you know. We live together in this society, and I'm making nobody do anything.
Do you speak out as fervently against violent movies, let's
Absolutely.
say?
Absolutely.
In other words, you would say Rambo is as bad as Stringfellow.
Absolutely.
We'll take a break and come back with Bill Donahue and Peter Stringfellow and more of your phone calls, and then we'll discuss moon dust for sale. Tomorrow night, President Nixon. Don't go away.
You know, a lot of men want to know more about Rogaine with minoxidil. If you're one of them, I have good news for you. Now there's a video prepared especially for men who want answers to their questions about Rogaine. Simply call 1-800-825-6447, and Upjohn will be glad to send it to you, absolutely free. Now, once you've looked at it, you'll probably want to schedule an appointment with a doctor. After all, only your doctor can prescribe Rogaine. And if you call right now, Upjohn will also send you the names of doctors in your area who can help you decide if Rogaine is right for you. You'll also receive a $10 certificate as an incentive to see your doctor. For your free videotape that gives you the complete story on Rogaine with minoxidil and your $10 certificate, call toll-free 1-800-825-6447. So what are you waiting for? Make the call today.
Time magazine called him the master funny man of the age. Now, for the first time ever, the legendary king of comedy and music is captured on video in the best of Victor Borge.
Pardon me, madam, are you laying eggs?
Recorded live, this collector's edition of Priceless Comedy is a must for every Victor Borge fan. It's the incomparable Victor Borge in his best loved, most heartwarming comedy performance of all time. The best of Victor Borge on VHS is only $19.95 plus $3.95 postage and handling. To order your personal copy, you must act now.
This is CNN.
CNN Overnight continues. Good morning. I'm Dave Michaels in Atlanta. A senior Bush administration official says the U.S. and Japan will attempt to stimulate worldwide economic growth. The announcement followed a meeting between President Bush and Prime Minister Kiichi Miyazawa in Tokyo. U.S. National Security Advisor Brent Scowcroft says Mr. Bush reminded Mr. Miyazawa that a strong world economy is important to Japan, which relies on exports. Two pitchers have strong-armed their way into baseball's Hall of Fame. Pitcher Tom Seaver, best known for his days with the New York Mets, is among only 5 pitchers to have struck out more than 5,000 batters. Former Oakland A's reliever pitcher Ronnie Fingers holds the records for games saved. Both were elected to the Hall of Fame Tuesday by members of the Baseball Writers Association. Who owns the moon? That's one of the questions Larry King asked his guest next as CNN Overnight continues.
By the way, off the air, Bill Donahue is insisting he's no purist and that he's been around the block a time or two.
That's right. And some of my friends can testify. I used to go to Johnny J's in Astoria, so.
Oh, Peter Stringfellow. His club is Stringfellows Presents Pure Platinum in New York City. And Bill Donahue, Family issues activist, conservative scholar associated with the Heritage Foundation. We go to Calgary, Canada. Hello.
Oh, hi, good evening. I'd just like to ask Mr. Donahue, has he ever been to Peter Stringfellow's nightclub? And if not, why is he attacking Mr. Stringfellow like this? I've been to his clubs in London, and they're excellent, and they're one of the few places that women can go to where they're not harassed by creeps, and they're a nice standard class of person goes there. And Peter Stringfellow, more power to you.
Bill?
Well, as I said before,
you should go there.
Yeah, I think he should get the next boat back to Britain.
No,
but I think that
you should go before you criticize.
Well, you know, again, as I said, I don't have to go to a pigsty to know that it stinks.
Oh,
the fact of the matter is that
you're ill.
You're ill. I know. Look, the central question, as I've said here, is that I have flatly said here tonight that I am opposed to promoting. No, wait, I said that I'm opposed to promoting hedonism in the culture, and I'm opposed to adultery. He has said he's not against either. That's the difference between you and me. That's the difference.
I've committed adultery. Beverly Hills, California. Hello.
Hi, my name's Christine, and I'd like to ask Bill, what does he think AIDS and herpes has to do with dancers? I was a dancer for 11 years, and the dancers never go home.
Do you think it sets the tone of the culture? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly right.
Obviously, dancing doesn't cause AIDS.
Of course not. Of course not. When you abandon sexual restraint, which is not, I mean, sexual appetite is very strong in human beings, and that's why we have, as I said, the institution of marriage. Now, when you abandon sexual restraint, when you say the libido should be lifted altogether, you wind up with a reckless ventilation of sexuality. It results in these problems.
Ma'am, do you accept that?
I don't agree with him.
Well, so what
I don't think that dancing has anything to do with AIDS and herpes. The dancers never go home with the customers. Never.
No, but where do the customers go? Do they go to McDonald's for a late-night hamburger? Come on, let's face it. What do you think they do? It worries me that we have a divorce rate partially a result of infidelity, and that we have problems of herpes and AIDS, and I got to pay for it in medical bills, and I've got to live with the progeny of this. I don't have these problems. You might, because you've already said you commit adultery. What else do you commit? Who knows?
Washington, D.C. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Stringfellow. I just wanted to find out why you don't have any male dancers at your club.
Why don't I have any more dancers?
Male. You're not an equal opportunity employer, are you?
Oh, right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, young lady, because I was thinking during the break, let's mention it. There is, and I hope Chippendales don't mind me using their name. They were there first. And the girls can go and see these incredibly good-looking, hunky guys. You're going to hate them, Bill. Yeah. Or maybe you like them, I don't know. You know, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
You're probably into that as well, aren't you?
I don't see anything wrong with that. Well, you're saying,
no,
Bill,
I think
don't worry.
You're the expert. Or expert, should I say. It's expert.
Wouldn't it be great if these two guys went out together and had a drink? Atlanta, hello.
Well, hello, gentlemen. Good evening, Mr. Donahue and Mr. Stringfellow.
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Donahue, it is apparent to me that evidently you have not visited Western Europe very recently.
I've never been there in my entire life, sir. Never once.
Didn't want to.
No, I'm not sure I want to go where he lives.
Question, sir.
All right, let me explain something to you, Mr. Donahue. You were talking about hedonism a moment ago.
That's right.
And Mr. Stringfellow, you'll probably agree with this, that most everything that walks into an upper-class joint, as you're describing, which we have here in Atlanta also. The club that was mentioned is not one of those, by the way. But not everything that walks into one of those clubs is a, shall we say, an ignorant cretin. Most of us are educated, and most of us do have successful backgrounds. Now, as for your charge of hedonism, Mr. Donahue, if you'll notice, and you do some research, you'll find out in the countries of Western Europe, rape is practically unheard of. Your social diseases such as herpes, AIDS, so forth, you don't have near the problem there that you do here.
The more open the society, the less the problem.
Oh, no, not at all. As a matter of fact, no, absolutely not. First of all, Sweden, for example, is a good case, because it's pretty much of a basket case. Most people don't even get married in Sweden anymore. And one of the results of that, because people don't get married, they don't form families, is that they have the highest suicide rate amongst the elderly. I know you can't figure out the relationship on that, but you couldn't figure out anything else earlier.
But if their herpes rate is low...
Well, no, I'm not saying that necessarily it is, but first of all, you're comparing apples and oranges. America and Europe are not exactly the same. And our society comes out of a society which practices sexual reticence in the past, and now all of a sudden we've had this kind of development. And I really wish people would begin to look at the relationship between this kind of sexual permissiveness and what he's done. He doesn't worry about it because he doesn't think any of this stuff is a problem.
Has anybody counted how many times
he doesn't even think
libido,
this is a problem.
sexuality, herpes, AIDS?
To deal with you, I know.
Yes, Larry?
Yeah.
Let me just point out to Mr. Stringfellow, who thinks he knows more about America than Americans.
No, I don't, sir. I don't.
I like America.
Let me just point out to you, sir, welcome to the land of feminism and women's groups who hopefully are going to boycott your pigsty and shut it down.
Are you a feminist,
you're another
caller?
one that doesn't like it, sir.
Caller, are you a feminist?
Well, I'm a feminist in that I got 2 Live Crew's album declared obscene down here in Miami, and the reason I did that is I represent women who've been sexually abused because of their people in the world like Mr. Stringfellow.
You support the feminist movement, sir?
Well, I beg your pardon?
You support the feminist movement because you hope they protest Stringfellows, right?
Absolutely, because...
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
That was Jack Thompson, and he has done the nation a service by trying to ban, as best as he possibly can.
You know the guy?
Well, ban in terms of promoters in the city to get them to stop promoting places like 2 Live Crew.
You don't want anything banned in America.
Well, as a matter of fact, there are certain things in America that we ban all the time.
You wouldn't want censorship.
No, I would prefer that we would go the route of social stigma, but I don't think it'd work on him, though. Look at him.
Who would be the
look what we're dealing with.
Who would be the censor?
No, the American people would be the censor themselves. Exactly.
They can go to Stringfellows or not.
Exactly. But what I'm saying, Larry, is that I still have to live with the consequences of the profligacy which this man promotes. We don't live in some island someplace. I mean, what people do and experience is something that I have to live with. You know?
All right, guys, thanks.
But you don't think there's a problem.
Peter Stringfellow, the place is Stringfellows Presents Pure Platinum. Bill Donahue of the Heritage Foundation will be back and talk about moon dust for sale. Tomorrow night, former President Richard Nixon. Thursday, Kevin Kline. And next week in Los Angeles, Don Rickles explains this. Don't go away.
Do you want to make more money? Sure, we all do. So call this free number to find out how easy it is to train at home for a better career. At ICS, more than 10 million men and women have prepared for new careers without setting foot inside a classroom. And now at home, in your spare time, you can get your diploma or your degree. Choose from any one of these courses. High school, TV, VCR repair, child daycare, computer programming, electrician, veterinary assistant, medical dental office, bookkeeping, legal assistant, interior decorating, drafting, hotel restaurant management, learning the personal computer, or get your degree. You can major in business management or accounting. Make this important call right now.
Call now for the free information Sally Struthers spoke about. Then decide if you want to train at home for a better job or career to make more money. Call 1-800-637-2000. There's no obligation and no salesman will visit you. Call 1-800-637-2000. Call now.
Wake up. Call 1-900-976-WAKE. Get out of bed and get ahead. Use your touch-tone phone. Call 1-900-976-WAKE. We're the wake-up that works, so why worry? Call 1-900-976-WAKE. Do it now. Only $2 per call. Depend on us. Call 1-900-976-WAKE. And wake up right. Wake up right. Wake up to us tomorrow.
Are you finding it harder and harder to get home in time to watch the evening news?
And that's the news. Good night.
What's the rush? Headline News gives you the latest news, business, and sports around the clock.
It's 250,000 miles from Earth, and only a few have ever been there, but my next guest says he owns a piece of it. Steve Goodman inherited what he believes to be some authentic moon dust collected from an Apollo mission, and now he wants to sell it. His asking price, some think, is astronomical. But the federal government could step in because the people at NASA say if it's from the moon, they own it. Joining us, Steve Goodman, owner of the moon dust, and Glenn Reynolds, executive vice president of the National Space Society and professor of space law at the University of Tennessee. There's space law?
That's it.
Law for space.
Absolutely.
How'd you come into the dust, Steve?
When I was 10 years old, my father brought it home one day from work. He worked at ILC. He's a material controller there.
He worked where?
At ILC, International Latex Corporation, the manufacturer of the spacesuits. And one day, he brought it home. He's kind of excited and said, you know, look what I brought you. And at the time, I wasn't really thrilled about it because it didn't have any color to it or anything like that. And it was put away for all these years. And
that was how long ago?
1971.
20 years.
Yeah, and, you know, I thought it was misplaced during our moves, but just about a month ago, my mother and I were looking through paperwork, and there it was.
How much? How much dust?
It's just a little strip of tape about 4 inches long that was placed.
Can we see it?
Yes, sir. It's right here.
That's it right there?
That's it.
Okay, I'm going to try to hope we get a shot of this on screen. That strip, that there is, this is, I'm touching moon dust, right?
That's
You
correct.
got it under a tape, right?
Right.
Okay, it's underneath that tape. What are you asking for this?
Well, whatever somebody offers, really.
Have you gotten any offers yet?
I am not doing that part. Mr. Hallam is taking care of all that, an attorney, because I really didn't want to be bothered.
Well, if someone were watching and they contacted us, we'll put them in touch with you, right?
Well, Mr. Hallam's office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but they get in touch with us. We'll let them know.
Okay.
What's wrong with this, Glenn?
Well, I'm sure I
First,
can't.
do you agree it's moon dust?
I can't tell from looking at it, but I suppose it can be authenticated easily enough
Sure, if it's
in the
father
appropriate
work.
lab.
Right.
There are a lot of these things floating around from the days of the space program. They're sort of like fragments of the True Cross floating around in the Middle Ages, but a lot of them are authentic.
Well,
I have a
let's say
piece of
it's authentic.
Skylab on my desk.
His father worked for the company. It's obvious. Pretty sure it's authentic.
I'm sure that the government's position is that they own it not because it comes from the moon, but because they brought it from the moon. That is, it came back on an Apollo 14 spacesuit. The taxpayers spent an awful lot of money to send that spacesuit to the moon and to send it back. And as a result, I'm sure their position is that the taxpayers are entitled to the fruit of their labors.
And you would agree with that position?
I suppose so. I guess the saddest thing is that such a small piece of moon dust could be worth so much. I think 20 years ago when we watched the Apollo moon flights, we really felt that by now probably we'd have bases there and, you know, pieces of the moon would be worth about as much as pieces of the Berlin Wall. But unfortunately, we kind of dropped the ball on that, and we're arguing now about pieces of the past instead of arguing about staking our claim to the future.
This is something that will be worth what it brings, right? I mean, there's no way we could... Has any dust ever been sold?
Not to my knowledge, but I'm not an authority on...
Where is the dust that's been collected? Where is the dust?
Most of it is stored in a couple of vaults at the Johnson Space Center, where it's very carefully preserved against any kind of accident or theft, because it's very valuable.
Is it at the Space Museum here?
There's a little bit at the Air and Space Museum here. In fact, they've got a piece of moon rock that you can actually touch. And millions of people go through every year and touch it, and I've done it myself.
To your knowledge, other than Steve assuming this is authentic, is it elsewhere in private hands?
I don't know of any in private hands. I wouldn't swear that it isn't, because there is a little bit of a black market in all kinds of space memorabilia. A lot of the astronauts took trinkets up with them and brought them back and sold them to friends and so on. And it might very well be in circulation, but I strongly doubt it.
Why do you want to sell it, Steve?
Basically money. I'm broke. I'm going to college full-time again, and I just wanted to go to college and concentrate on that. And I figured if there's somebody out there that wanted something unique, you know.
Is your father alive?
He died a year later. He died in 1972.
Young man, then.
Yes, very young.
Can you give me an idea of, barring government interference, what you think this might bring?
Well, I had an offer, like the day the ad was in the paper, of $100,000, and you know, it kind of shocked me. And then the guy said, "Well, money's no object," and at that point, I said, "Well, I haven't, you know, I just got an attorney to handle that."
And that was the first offer, $100,000.
Right, and then I haven't talked to anybody since.
That doesn't surprise you, Glenn?
Not particularly. Think how much it would cost you to go get your own piece of the moon.
And rich collectors, especially if they keep it in the vault, it stays more valuable the more time you have it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What is the government trying to do? Have they filed anything to prevent this?
To the best of my knowledge, they haven't done anything. For one, it wasn't authenticated yet. We're in the process of trying to do that through a couple of universities. And other than that, not really.
You will have it authenticated?
Yes.
NASA, by the way, we contacted NASA. They didn't want to comment nor send anyone to this show. They made a public statement?
Well, only what I've read in the newspaper, and the last one I read today said if it's such a small trace amount, they probably wouldn't do anything, is what the Times
If you
said.
had a ton of money, would you buy this?
No, I might. It's certainly an unusual keepsake.
Let's include your phone calls. Bert, Virginia, for Glenn Reynolds and Steve Goodman. Hello.
Hello, Larry. This is Keith Hallam. I'm Steve's attorney. Hi, Steve.
How you doing?
Oh, thanks for calling in.
Yes, sir. Well, I heard my name in vain there, and I thought I'd just call in. One of the points you all were talking about was the NASA position.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to the assistant legal counsel at NASA.
And?
Their position currently is, as Steve represented, if it is a small amount, they may or they may not come after Steve to obtain the material. They haven't made that decision. On the other hand, they are taking a very strong position that anything of lunar material is a national treasure and should be in NASA or U.S. hands.
And therefore, when they take that material, the frightening part then from your standpoint is someone might be afraid to pay $500,000 for this and then have the government take it away from them.
Well, I suppose that would be the concern of a collector, although a true, legitimate, and dedicated collector, I think, would be willing to take that chance.
And even go to court over it?
I think so.
Where do you stand now on authenticating?
We're in the process of contacting several university laboratories. We've been told that we can get an initial reading by a microscopic examination, and if it passes that test, the next step is a biochemical test. The only problem is we don't want to destroy it in the process of authenticating it. So we're working now with some laboratories and attempting to authenticate it without destroying it.
Based on that initial offer, $100,000, what do you run around in your head as the possibility Steve might make from this?
Well, our position is it's priceless, and I don't want to be coy, but I think $100,000 would be the opening with reserve bid.
And Glenn agrees with you, right?
It's priceless, but I'm sure that they'll sell it for a price.
Okay, this is it, folks.
It's upside down.
It's upside down, all right? This is a trace of moon dust removed from the LH leg section of pressure garment A7L0731 worn by astronaut Mitchell during his walk of the Apollo 14 mission. The suit came to us this morning for cleaning, and I got this sample, Dad. That was your father, yes. 20 years ago at ILC Industries. I'm going to show this to you again. You mean if I tore this in half?
I would cry.
We're going to pause and come right back with your phone calls on Larry King Live. Don't go away, moon dust.
The natural juice in these fruits and vegetables fuel your body with the very liquids of life. Now, wring out their goodness with the Sweeta Natural Juice Factory. Transform whole, market-fresh vegetables into high-potency, all-natural juice. The Sweeta Juice Factory preserves every drop of life-giving fluids.
All that salt. With my own juice factory, I know it's natural. Truth is, it tastes even better.
Overcooked vegetables are robbed of their digestive enzymes. The Sweeta Juice Factory preserves every drop of life-giving nutrients. And of course, it's a fruit juice factory. Apples, grapes, melon, skin, and rind. Feed them into Sweeta fresh from the market. No more hand-wrenching, old-fashioned juice gadgets. Sweeta's dynamic spin automatically sifts and separates pulp. You have all the juice and only the juice in one clean, vitamin-packed, ready-to-pour pitcher.
With the juice factory, it's like having a health bar right on my kitchen counter.
Don't waste money throwing away soft fruits and veggies. Juice them for every drop. Doctors agree. Natural fruits and vegetable juice can promote health, restore energy, even help in weight loss.
I'd have to eat all this fruit to get the same nutrition in this one glass of juice. The juice factory makes it fast, makes it delicious.
I need to know what my kids are drinking. We even freeze it for yummy treats. I want a long life, a good life. The juice factory is a healthy switch for me.
You've seen electric juice appliances in catalogs and on TV for $200 and more. But the Sweeta Natural Juice Factory is yours now for 3 simple payments of $19.95.
To your health.
Call now for rush delivery.
To order your Juice Factory, call 1-800-647-9100. The incredible Juice Factory is yours for 3 easy payments of only $19.95. Sorry, no CODs accepted. So have your credit card ready and call now, 1-800-647-9100. That number again, 1-800-647-9100.
Our guests are Steve Goodman, owner of Moondust, given to him by his late father. He's ready to sell it. And Glenn Reynolds, Executive Vice President of the National Space Society and a space law professor, University of Tennessee. The callers from Washington. Hello.
Yes, Larry, I have a question. I wonder if Professor Reynolds can tell us, I understand there's something called the Moon Treaty, and I'm wondering if others were to be able to bring back moon dust or larger sections or actually own property on the moon, what the members of his society would think of that.
Well, we're all for it, of course. The National Space Society is a grassroots group that's dedicated to seeing the expansion of space development and space colonies. The Moon Treaty was a treaty that was ratified and entered force in '84, but the United States has never signed it, and no major space power is a party to it. It was a third world coalition effort to limit property rights in space.
Los Angeles, hello.
Hi. You said that there were none in private collections. That's not true. J. Paul Getty had one in his possession in his home in Sutton Place. In 1978, I was a guest in their home, and a friend of mine and I, who were also guests in the home, took a piece.
Took a piece of the moon?
Yes.
What'd you do with it?
I don't want to say.
Why not?
But I just can't imagine here. I'm seeing him here with this little piece of tape, and he's saying it's worth $20,000, and somebody offered him $100,000 for it. And
Are you saying you still have this piece of the moon?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
How big a piece? Really? Well, we don't know who you are, and you're anonymous. How big a piece?
It was a pretty good sized piece. He had the whole rock that he had in his property would fit in my hand. And I don't know, when they sold the property in 1980, I believe, and I don't know if it went back to I don't know if it's in the museum in Los Angeles or what.
Who is the gentleman who had it?
J. Paul Getty.
J. Paul Getty.
It was in his home in Sutton Place.
He would have been the kind of guy that would have bought stuff like
He
this.
could afford it.
What should the lady do?
If I were her, I'd hold on to it and keep quiet.
He had a tag on the rock to it, and it said that it was from Neil Armstrong, who gave it to him as a personal gift. He used to keep it in his sitting room.
Did Neil Armstrong keep his, by the way?
I have no idea.
No idea. Do you know if astronauts keep that? You know who could confirm that, man, is Neil.
Yeah, I'm sure he could.
If Neil confirms it, I think you're sitting on a lot of money.
I don't know. It's
Did you steal it from J. Paul Getty?
Excuse me?
Did you steal it or he gave it to you?
No, he was already passed away at the time. He was already dead.
But it was on his property?
Yes.
And you just, like, grabbed it?
We didn't take the whole thing. We chipped some off.
It was sitting outside?
It was in the home. I was a guest in the home.
Yeah, privately you could still swing a deal here, right?
I wouldn't invite you to be a guest in my home.
Okay, on that note, we're going to pause and come back with more about moon dust. Don't go away.
Today, Tech Trent Shoe Corporation announced a major retail expansion in 25 U.S. cities.
When I see a company that looks like a good investment, I check it out myself. At Charles Schwab, I can get quotes, financial news, and when I make a trade, commission savings.
For free information about Schwab services, call toll-free 800-257-1257.
Exclusively on TNT.
The age goes to...
Honoring cable's best. Sybil Shepherd and Danny Glover host the 13th Annual ACE Awards. Live Sunday. Exclusively on TNT.
Well, after Denver's blizzard on Tuesday and 14 inches of snowfall later, it's going to be colder and the snow begins to move out. But it is moving into the nation's midsection and the Midwest, where teen and 20-degree readings can be found, even some 30s. But the winds are going to be rather gusty and those roads are going to be treacherous. Los Angeles, believe it or not, the rain does end. You'll see partly cloudy but windy weather conditions in 67. Las Vegas, 52. Billings, Montana, only about 48 degrees. And Denver, yes, some early morning flurries, but by the afternoon, partly sunny and about 28. New York, 44. The rain doesn't move in until Thursday, but rain does move into Memphis and 58 degrees. Atlanta should be mostly cloudy and 60, and quite a contrast. Miami, 78. Here's a forecast map, and the center of that low-pressure system should be located just about over Iowa, moving rapidly towards the Great Lakes with the gusty winds. Rain out ahead of the southern end of this weather system. On the back side of this low-pressure system, it's going to be snowfall. You could see a wedge of that icy mixture, perhaps some sleet, perhaps some freezing rain or snow mixed with rain. Now these forecasts coming out for these cities for Wednesday.
For a transcript of Larry King Live, send $5 to Larry King Live Transcripts, Journal Graphics Incorporated, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203. Or call 303-831-9000.
By the way, if you contact us for any information about the moon dust, we'll forward it on to Steve and his attorney. Our guests are Steve Goodman and Glenn Reynolds, and we go to Oakton, Virginia. Hello.
Hello, Larry.
Hi.
It seems to me that this gentleman is selling property that really doesn't belong to him.
it was clearly taken from his father's company. It's taped onto the letterhead of the company, so from a legal standpoint, what grounds does he really have to sell it?
Glenn? Well, I suppose they always say possession is 9 points of the law.
Statute of limitations?
Possibly. It's a sort of question that makes lawyers money.
But the thing is, it was discarded property. I mean,
That's
they were
right. Did
throwing
they
it
ever
out.
report it stolen? No.
No, I mean, they were taking it there for decontamination and cleaning, and it's getting thrown out. It's going right down the drain. You know?
Oh, it was going to be thrown out.
Yeah, that's exactly. He took it off the soup before it was cleaned. You know, so everything was getting destroyed. So it's just like throwing out your trash. If somebody wants it after you throw it out, they're allowed to have it.
Abandoned property.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can I launch into space privately?
Sure, absolutely.
I can.
You'll need a launch license from the Department of Transportation, but the mechanism for that's all set up. People do it all the time.
They get launch licenses?
Absolutely.
So if I could propel myself up, and I go up, let's say tomorrow, and I come back with moon stuff, that's my stuff?
That's yours.
Because there's no treaty that we've ever signed.
The Outer Space Treaty of '67 says nations can't appropriate territory, but it doesn't say anything about what individuals can do in terms of extracting resources from the moon or Mars or other planets and bringing them back.
Thanks, guys. Good luck, Steve. Yeah. Let us know what happens. Glenn, great. And we start a new friendship here. These two guys are the same age, and we hope that this formulates into a very nice friendship. Steve, best of luck with this.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this edition of Larry King Overnight, a repeat of Larry King Live. We are with you every night, Monday through Friday, at 9 Eastern, and then at 1 a.m. Pacific time, we repeat the entire program. We hope you enjoyed tonight's sprightly session about semi-nude clubs in New York and moon dust here in Washington. Tomorrow night, former President Richard Nixon will be our guest for the full hour. And on Thursday night, Kevin Kline. Next week, this program will originate from Los Angeles. By the way, the ACE Awards air Sunday night. We'll also be in Pittsburgh for a Larry King CNN town meeting on the recession on Sunday night, January 19th, at the Soldiers and Sailors Museum at the campus of the University of Pittsburgh. Lots of things going on. More to tell you about tomorrow. Good morning.
Look at you. You're the most pitiful excuse for an attorney I've ever seen.
You are the most contrary human being I've ever met in my life. First, you tell me I'm such a good lawyer, you want to hire me. Then you get me here and you don't give me any cases. And now you're calling me pitiful. Well, if I'm so pitiful, what the hell did you hire me for?
If you loved me half as much as I loved you,
his voice is loved around the world.
You wouldn't worry me.
The rich, warm sound of Roger Whittaker.
Once in a while he won't call.
Now, Heartland Music presents Roger Whittaker in his all-new collection, Sincerely Yours.
Oh, my Papa, to me he was so wonderful. I can't stop loving you.
Roger's voice is more beautiful than ever in his all-new collection.
I remember the night and the Tennessee Waltz.
2 great albums.
Did you ever know that you're my hero?
All your favorite songs.
And everything I'd like to be. Hey, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song? Down the lane I walk with my sweet Mary.
Remember, Roger Whittaker's all-new collection is not in stores.
I'll be loving you.
Stay tuned to order.
Always.
To order, call toll-free 1-800-257-1257 to save all COD charges and pay only $12.98 for records or cassettes or $16.98 for compact disc, plus $3 shipping. Use your credit card or send check or money order to Roger Whittaker, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, to save all COD charges, send check or money order or use your credit card.